What if a single moment with one of the world's richest men changed the life of a 7-year-old forever? Imagine standing in a crowded room, eyes wide with wonder, heart pounding with excitement, only to hear the words, "You're wrong." That's exactly what happened to Jamie, a curious boy from a small town in Ohio, when he met Elon Musk. Jamie's dream was to build rockets and explore the stars, but Elon, the man who seemed to hold the keys to the future, challenged everything Jamie believed. That moment, unexpected, tense, and almost crushing, became the spark that lit a fire Jamie didn't even know was burning inside him. This is a story about dreams, doubt, regret, and the power of persistence. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? Jamie's journey began in the quiet town of Fairview, Ohio, a place where the stars seemed just out of reach but shining brightly enough to inspire those willing to look up. From the moment he could speak, Jamie was fascinated by the night sky, by rockets and space travel, by anything that promised a future beyond the ordinary. At 7 years old, he already carried the weight of big dreams in a small body. Jamie's mother, Sarah, worked 2 jobs to keep their household afloat. She was tough, kind, and fiercely protective of Jamie, who often spent evenings building model rockets out of cardboard and tin foil in their cramped living room. Life wasn't easy, but Jamie never felt poor in spirit. His dad had left when Jamie was just a toddler, and though Sarah never spoke badly about him, the absence lingered like a shadow over their family. Jamie's closest friend, Lily, shared his love of science. They spent hours drawing rockets, reading books about astronauts, and imagining what it would be like to float among the stars. Their friendship was a bright spot in a world that sometimes felt small and limiting. At school, Jamie's passion for space was met with mixed reactions. Some kids teased him, calling his dreams silly. Teachers admired his curiosity but often warned him to be realistic. At home, Sarah worried that Jamie's dreams might set him up for disappointment. Yet, Jamie refused to let doubt dim his imagination. He built a homemade space suit from old clothes and tin cans, convinced that one day he would wear a real one. One afternoon, Jamie's life took a turn that no one could have predicted. His school entered a nationwide contest sponsored by a major space company. The prize? A chance to visit SpaceX and meet Elon Musk himself. Jamie's heart raced when he found out his project had won. The day of the trip arrived, and Jamie found himself face to face with the man who had become a symbol of innovation and the future. Elon Musk was larger than life, a blend of genius, intensity, and relentless drive. Jamie approached him with a mixture of awe and nervousness, eager to share his ideas about building affordable rockets that could reach Mars. Elon listened, then shook his head. "You're wrong," he said bluntly. Jamie's world seemed to stop. The words stung harder than any insult from the schoolyard bullies. How could someone he admired so much dismiss his dream in a single sentence? Elon's expression softened almost immediately. He saw the shock in Jamie's eyes and regretted his harsh words. Elon remembered his own childhood, how many times he had been told he couldn't succeed. He wanted to encourage Jamie, to share the truth that failure and doubt are part of every journey to greatness. "I didn't mean to discourage you," Elon said quietly. "I want you to learn from my mistakes. Keep dreaming, but keep working harder." Jamie's feelings were a tangle of confusion and inspiration. Though hurt, he sensed the weight of Elon's experience and knew this moment was more than a rejection, it was a challenge. But doubt crept in like a shadow. Back home, Jamie struggled with his confidence. The teasing at school grew louder, and even Sarah noticed the spark in Jamie's eyes dimming. Yet, through it all, Lily stood by him, reminding him why he started dreaming in the first place. Together, they worked on new ideas, pushing past failures and setbacks. One day, disaster struck at the school science fair. Jamie's experiment malfunctioned spectacularly, drawing laughter instead of applause. Embarrassed and heartbroken, Jamie thought about giving up. But then, unexpectedly, a video message arrived. Elon Musk himself appeared on the screen, encouraging Jamie to keep going, to embrace failure as a step toward success. Those words rekindled Jamie's hope. What followed was a journey of late nights, setbacks, breakthroughs, and emotional growth. Jamie learned that dreams aren't just about reaching the stars but about the courage to face challenges head-on, to believe in yourself when no one else does. Years later, reflecting on that fateful moment when Elon said, "You're wrong," Jamie realized it wasn't a rejection but a spark, a call to rise, to persevere, and to prove that even the youngest dreamers can change the world. So, what's the one thing that pushes you forward when everything feels impossible? Jamie's story is a reminder that sometimes, the hardest words are the ones that set us free. Stay tuned, there's so much more ahead. Jamie was not like most kids his age. While others played video games or watched cartoons, Jamie spent his afternoons staring at the sky, tracing constellations with his finger, dreaming of rockets blasting off into the unknown. His fascination with space was more than a hobby, it was the very core of who he was. Jamie's parents had divorced when he was just 2, and since then, he had lived with his mother, Sarah, in a small, weathered house on the edge of town. Sarah worked hard, often pulling double shifts at the local diner and cleaning houses on weekends. Money was tight, but she made sure Jamie never felt that way. She encouraged his dreams, even when she didn't fully understand them. "One day, Jamie," she would say, "you're gonna fly higher than anyone in this town." Sarah's eyes sparkled with pride whenever Jamie talked about rockets, but Jamie could sense the worry behind her smile. She wanted a stable life for him, free of the hardships she had known. Jamie's father was a distant memory, a man who showed up once or twice a year, bringing gifts but leaving just as quickly. Jamie didn't hate him, he simply wished he could understand why he wasn't around. The absence left a hole, but Jamie found comfort in the stars, believing that maybe his dad was out there somewhere, reaching for the same sky. At school, Jamie's uniqueness made him both special and isolated. Teachers admired his questions about planets and physics but often told him to focus on what matters. Classmates didn't always understand him. Some called him space geek or dreamer, words meant to sting but never quite breaking Jamie's spirit. His best friend, Lily, was the exception. Lily was bright, curious, and fiercely loyal. She had a quick smile and an even quicker wit, always ready with a joke or a pep talk when Jamie needed it. They met in first grade during a science project about the solar system and instantly bonded over their shared passion. Together, they built cardboard rockets, experimented with baking soda and vinegar engines, and dreamed of one day building real spaceships. Jamie's little space suit was a patchwork of old clothes and shiny bits of foil. He wore it everywhere, even to school on special occasions, pretending it would protect him from the vacuum of space. Sometimes, he'd climb onto the roof of their house at night, imagining himself orbiting Earth, waving to people down below. Sarah would watch from the window, heart swelling with love and a touch of fear. She worried about the teasing Jamie faced, the loneliness he sometimes felt, but she never told him to stop dreaming. Instead, she told him stories of people who started small but reached far, like astronauts, inventors, and yes, even Elon Musk. Jamie absorbed every story, every detail, and made them part of his own vision. But dreams are fragile in a world that often demands practicality. Jamie's teacher suggested he focus more on reading and math, less on space nonsense. Sarah reminded him to study hard so he could get a good job one day. Jamie understood their concerns but felt torn. How could he choose between fitting in and reaching for the stars? One day, Jamie's science teacher, Mrs. Carlson, announced a special contest. It was a nationwide competition sponsored by a major space company, aimed at inspiring young minds to think big about science and innovation. The winner would get a trip to SpaceX headquarters in California and a chance to meet Elon Musk. Jamie's heart leapt. This was his moment. With Lily's help, Jamie threw himself into his project, a design for a reusable rocket that could make space travel affordable for everyone. They worked after school and on weekends, cutting and gluing, testing and tweaking. Jamie's enthusiasm was contagious, and even Sarah chipped in, sewing patches on his space suit and helping him rehearse his presentation. At night, Jamie lay awake, imagining the rocket soaring into space, imagining Elon Musk nodding in approval. When the day came to present the project, Jamie stood in front of the class, his voice shaking but his eyes bright. He explained how his rocket could change the future, how space was not just for the rich or the famous, but for dreamers like him and Lily. Weeks later, the announcement came: Jamie had won. The news spread quickly through their small town. Sarah cried tears of joy and disbelief. Jamie's classmates looked at him with newfound respect. The trip to SpaceX was no longer a distant dream, it was happening. Preparing for the trip was a whirlwind of emotions. Jamie packed his favorite books about space, his well-worn notebook filled with sketches, and his trusty space suit. Sarah insisted on driving him to the airport herself, despite working a long shift, because she wanted to see him off. "Remember," she said, squeezing his hand, "this is just the beginning. No matter what happens, you're already a star to me." The plane ride to California was Jamie's first time flying. He pressed his face against the window, mesmerized by the clouds and the endless blue beyond. Every minute brought him closer to the man who had inspired his dreams and challenged his limits. When Jamie arrived at SpaceX, the building itself took his breath away. Sleek and futuristic, with rockets towering like giants, it felt like stepping into the future. The air buzzed with excitement and purpose. Jamie's heart pounded as he was led to a conference room where Elon Musk was waiting. Elon was everything Jamie had imagined: intense, sharp-eyed, and full of restless energy. Jamie could barely speak at first, but he gathered courage to share his ideas about making space travel affordable and accessible. Elon listened carefully but then shook his head and said the words Jamie would never forget: "You're wrong." The phrase hit Jamie like a punch to the gut. For a moment, the room seemed to spin. How could the man who had built rockets and changed industries tell him that his dreams were wrong? Jamie's face flushed with embarrassment and hurt. Elon's eyes softened as he saw the pain he'd caused. He regretted the bluntness of his words. Elon had been young once, filled with big ideas and met with harsh criticism. He knew how important encouragement was. "I didn't mean to discourage you," Elon said quietly. "Failure is part of the process. The key is to learn, to keep pushing." Jamie wanted to believe him, but the seed of doubt had been planted. On the flight home, Jamie stared out the window, wrestling with his feelings. He wondered if he really was wrong. At school, the teasing resumed, louder than before. Some kids called him a loser for getting shut down by Elon Musk himself. Sarah saw the change in her son, the way he slumped in his chair, the quiet sadness in his eyes, and she did her best to lift his spirits. Lily never left his side. She reminded him of all the times they had overcome failure, how every mistake was a step forward. Slowly, Jamie's spark began to rekindle. He and Lily started working on a new project, taking Elon's words as a challenge rather than a verdict. They stayed up late, experimenting, failing, learning, and trying again. It wasn't easy. Doubt whispered in Jamie's ear every day, but he fought back with every ounce of his stubborn determination. Then came the school science fair. Jamie and Lily unveiled their latest invention, hopeful and proud. But when Jamie flipped the switch, the machine sputtered and died. The crowd laughed, and Jamie's cheeks burned with humiliation. The moment felt like defeat, a confirmation of his worst fears. He wanted to run away and never look back. But then, something unexpected happened. A video message appeared on the screen. It was Elon Musk, speaking directly to Jamie. "Don't give up," Elon said. "Every failure is a lesson. Keep building, keep dreaming." Tears welled in Jamie's eyes. The encouragement from the man who once told him he was wrong was the push Jamie needed to believe again. What followed was a journey full of highs and lows. Jamie and Lily's late nights in the garage, the arguments, the breakthroughs, the moments of doubt, and the surges of hope, all of it shaped Jamie into someone who understood that success was not a destination but a relentless pursuit. Over time, Jamie's inventions began to work better. His confidence grew. He stood taller at school, talked louder, and dreamed bigger. Sarah's pride shone brighter than ever. The boy who once doubted himself was becoming a young innovator with a fire in his heart. And through it all, Jamie never forgot that moment with Elon Musk. The man's words, harsh and honest, had ignited a spark that pushed Jamie further than he ever thought possible. The journey was just beginning, and Jamie was ready for whatever came next. Jamie's story was about more than rockets and inventions. It was about the people who shaped him, the relationships that held him together when the world seemed uncertain. At the center of his life was his mother, Sarah. Sarah was a woman of quiet strength and unwavering love, balancing two jobs to provide for Jamie with no complaints. She had given up her own dreams to make sure Jamie could chase his. Every night, after long hours working at the diner, Sarah would come home exhausted but never too tired to listen to Jamie's latest ideas or help patch together his latest rocket model. Their small home was filled with laughter and the smell of coffee and paper glue. But beneath the surface, Sarah carried a worry she rarely voiced. What if Jamie's dreams were too big for their small town? What if the world was too harsh? Her own past wasn't easy. She had grown up in a broken home, with a father who drank too much and a mother who worked double shifts to keep them fed. She swore she'd give Jamie a better life, even if it meant working herself to the bone. Jamie felt this love deeply. He knew how hard Sarah worked, how many sacrifices she made. On days when the teasing at school was too much, or when Elon Musk's words haunted him, Sarah's hugs were a sanctuary. "You're meant for great things, Jamie," she'd whisper. "Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Jamie's father was a mystery wrapped in silence. He had left when Jamie was just a toddler, and since then, there had been only a handful of phone calls and letters that never quite found their way. Jamie didn't resent him, sometimes he even wondered if his dad shared his love for space. But the absence left Jamie with questions that had no easy answers. In quiet moments, Jamie imagined what it would be like to tell his father about his dreams, to hear encouragement instead of silence. This emptiness fueled Jamie's determination. He wanted to prove that even without a father's presence, he could reach the stars. Lily was Jamie's closest friend and constant companion. From the moment they met, their bond was unbreakable. Lily was a whirlwind of energy, with a laugh that could brighten any room and a mind that matched Jamie's in curiosity and creativity. Unlike Jamie, Lily came from a more stable family. Her parents were both teachers who nurtured her love for science and art. She understood Jamie's struggles and never judged him for the tough days or the quiet moments of doubt. Together, they were a team. They challenged each other, supported each other, and celebrated every small victory. At school, where Jamie sometimes felt out of place, Lily was his shield and his cheerleader. When bullies made fun of Jamie's "space geek" label, Lily stood up for him fiercely. When Jamie wanted to give up after a failed experiment, Lily reminded him why they started. Their friendship was a bright light, a constant in a world of change. Jamie's relationship with Sarah and Lily gave him a foundation, but it was not without its struggles. Sarah often worried about Jamie's stubborn streak. When he got frustrated, he could shut down completely or push himself too hard. Sarah wanted him to be practical, to consider a future that was safe and stable. Sometimes they clashed over homework, chores, or how much time Jamie spent daydreaming. But beneath the disagreements was a deep respect and love. Sarah knew Jamie was different, and she wanted to protect him without clipping his wings. Lily's support was sometimes tested too. Jamie's passion could turn into obsession, and he had a hard time accepting help or criticism, even from her. They argued over the smallest details of their projects or over the direction their inventions should take. But these conflicts only made their friendship stronger. They learned to listen, to compromise, and to trust each other's strengths. These relationships were the emotional core of Jamie's journey. They grounded him when the sky seemed too far away and lifted him when his heart was heavy. Sarah's sacrifices, Lily's loyalty, and Jamie's own resilience were threads woven into a tapestry of hope and determination. Jamie's mother, Sarah, worked tirelessly, often returning home late into the night. Despite her exhaustion, she always made time to listen to Jamie's stories about rockets and planets, treating each idea as if it were a precious gem. Her quiet encouragement was a balm to Jamie's sometimes fragile confidence. She would sit beside him, helping with his homework or patching up his makeshift space suit with needle and thread. Sarah's belief in Jamie was fierce and unwavering, even when she worried about what the future held for her son. The years of hardship had taught her resilience, but also a deep sense of caution. She understood the world could be cruel to dreamers, especially ones from small towns with big ambitions. Sometimes, late at night, she would wonder if she was pushing Jamie too hard or not enough. Jamie could see the lines of worry on her face but never heard her doubts spoken aloud. Instead, she was his rock, the steady presence that kept him anchored. Jamie's father's absence left a quiet hole that was never quite filled. Though Jamie longed to know him, he learned early that love isn't always about presence. Instead, Jamie focused on what he did have: the warmth of his mother's arms, the laughter of his best friend, and the boundless wonder of the stars above. He imagined his father somewhere out there, a shadow in the vast universe, and hoped that one day they might share a moment under the same sky. Lily, with her quick smile and boundless energy, was Jamie's partner in every adventure. She was not just a friend but a co-dreamer, someone who believed in the impossible just as fiercely as Jamie did. Their friendship was a refuge from the harshness of the world, a place where ideas could grow wild and free. When Jamie's confidence wavered, Lily was there to remind him of his strengths. When projects failed or setbacks loomed, she was the voice that said, "We'll figure it out together." Their late-night brainstorming sessions, filled with laughter and determination, became the heartbeat of Jamie's journey. Conflicts came, as they do in all relationships, but Jamie and Lily learned the power of forgiveness and trust. They celebrated each success as a shared victory and stood strong through every challenge. These bonds gave Jamie the courage to face a world that sometimes seemed intent on telling him no. Through the love and support of Sarah and Lily, Jamie began to understand the importance of resilience and sacrifice. He saw the sacrifices his mother made, the long hours she worked to give him a chance, and the unwavering support of his friend who believed in him even when he doubted himself. These relationships were more than just connections, they were lifelines. As Jamie navigated the difficult path from a curious boy with big dreams to a young innovator facing real challenges, these bonds would be tested and strengthened. They were the foundation that kept Jamie moving forward when the journey seemed too hard. Jamie often thought about how different life could have been without Sarah's sacrifices or Lily's friendship. They weren't just characters in his story, they were the heartbeat of it. Without them, the stars might have felt too distant, the dreams too fragile. But with their love and belief, Jamie knew anything was possible. These relationships shaped his world, teaching him lessons about love, sacrifice, and the power of never giving up. They gave him the strength to face every setback, every doubt, and every "you're wrong" with a fierce determination to prove that the smallest voices can reach the greatest heights. Jamie's story was not just about rockets or space, it was about the human connections that make even the wildest dreams possible. The moment Jamie stepped through the glass doors of SpaceX headquarters, he felt like he was entering another world, a place where dreams collided with science and the impossible was just the next challenge waiting to be solved. The walls echoed with the hum of innovation, and models of rockets and spacecraft surrounded him like monuments to human ambition. Jamie's eyes widened as he took in the enormous Falcon rockets standing like giants outside the building. The air smelled faintly of metal and fuel, and the buzz of engineers talking in rapid-fire technical language filled the halls. Jamie clutched his notebook tightly, filled with sketches and notes from months of work. He was about to meet Elon Musk, the man who had built companies that reshaped technology and dared to dream bigger than anyone else. Nervous excitement mixed with a lingering doubt that echoed from Elon's last words, "You're wrong." What did that really mean? Was Jamie's dream truly flawed, or was this just part of the journey? Jamie was led into a sleek conference room where Elon waited, pacing with restless energy. Elon's sharp gaze scanned Jamie, as if weighing the boy's potential against the cold realities of the aerospace world. Then Elon spoke, his voice calm but firm. "Show me what you've got." Jamie pulled out his notebook and began explaining his design, a reusable rocket aimed at reducing the cost of space travel and making it accessible to more people. He talked about materials, fuel efficiency, and the importance of sustainability in space exploration. Elon listened, occasionally nodding, but also asking hard questions that made Jamie think on his feet. It wasn't just a presentation, it was a challenge. Jamie felt the weight of every word, every pause. When he finished, Elon leaned back and said, "Your passion is real, but your assumptions are off. The physics, the costs, you've underestimated the complexity." Jamie's heart sank, but Elon's tone shifted. "That's normal. Every innovator starts here. The key is to learn, adapt, and push through failure." This moment marked the beginning of a climactic journey for Jamie, one filled with unexpected twists and harsh lessons. Elon invited Jamie to tour the SpaceX facilities, giving him a behind-the-scenes look at rocket assembly, testing, and launches. Jamie's senses were overwhelmed by the scale and precision of it all. He watched engineers weld massive metal pieces with care, technicians running simulations on banks of computers, and the countdown to a rocket launch, the ground shaking with the power of liftoff. Each step was a vivid lesson, a glimpse into the reality behind his dreams. Jamie's mind raced with ideas and questions. He wanted to understand everything, from the smallest bolt to the vast logistics of sending humans to Mars. Elon encouraged his curiosity but warned, innovation isn't about avoiding failure. It's about embracing it and learning faster than everyone else. As the days passed, Jamie began to see his project with new eyes. The dream was still alive, but the path was harder and more complex than he had imagined. Jamie spent hours talking with engineers and scientists, absorbing knowledge and asking questions. He started to realize that passion alone wasn't enough, he needed data, precision, and perseverance. One afternoon, Elon sat down with Jamie for a frank conversation. "You have potential," Elon said. "But potential isn't achievement. To get there, you have to push beyond comfort, beyond setbacks. You have to be willing to be wrong many times before you're right." Jamie nodded, understanding that this was more than advice, it was a challenge. Back home, Jamie's world felt different. The trip had changed something inside him. He was no longer just a boy with big dreams but someone who had tasted the hard truth of innovation. The teasing at school still stung, but Jamie faced it with new confidence. His friendship with Lily deepened as they worked on improving their rocket design, incorporating lessons from SpaceX. Failure became a teacher rather than a threat. Jamie found himself waking early, sketching ideas, and staying up late running tests with Lily in her garage. Their project evolved from a simple model into a complex machine with sensors and fuel calculations. Each small victory was met with celebration, every setback sparked brainstorming sessions to find solutions. Jamie's resilience grew stronger, fueled by the hope Elon had inspired. But the journey was far from smooth. At times, frustration overwhelmed him. There were moments when the engines failed to ignite, when materials bent under stress, or when calculations didn't add up. Jamie felt the weight of doubt creeping back, threatening to undo all the progress. It was in those moments that Sarah's quiet support and Lily's unwavering belief made all the difference. Sarah reminded Jamie that even the greatest inventors had faced failure and rejection. Lily reminded him why they started and that together they were stronger. Slowly, Jamie's project began to take shape. The rocket prototype, though small and imperfect, was ready for its first test flight. Jamie and Lily chose a windy afternoon in an open field outside town. The community gathered, curious and skeptical, many expecting another failure. Jamie's heart pounded as he ignited the engine. The rocket sputtered, lifted a few feet, then wobbled and crashed. The crowd's reaction was mixed. Some laughed, others shook their heads, but a few clapped, recognizing the courage it took to try. Jamie felt a sting of embarrassment but also a spark of pride. He looked at Lily, who gave him a thumbs up. "We'll get it next time," she said with a smile. That test flight was a turning point. Jamie understood that setbacks were inevitable, but giving up was not an option. They refined the design, adjusting the fuel mixture and stabilizing the fins. Each test brought new data and insight. Jamie's confidence grew as he learned to see failure as progress. Weeks later, another launch attempt soared higher and steadier. The crowd cheered as the rocket flew farther than ever before. Jamie's smile was radiant. This was no longer just a boy's dream, it was a real, unfolding adventure. Throughout this climactic journey, Jamie also grappled with bigger questions about purpose and sacrifice. The time he spent on the project pulled him away from schoolwork and social activities. Sarah worried about his health and balance. Jamie sometimes felt isolated, torn between chasing his dream and living a normal life. Elon's earlier words echoed, "Innovation demands sacrifice, but not at the cost of losing oneself." Jamie learned to listen, to himself, to his family, and to his own limits. He began to find a rhythm, balancing passion with self-care, work with rest, and dreams with reality. This growth was as important as any technical breakthrough. As the prototype rocket finally flew successfully, Jamie stood beneath the vast sky, feeling a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. The journey had been harder than he imagined, but every challenge had taught him something vital. He realized that being told he was wrong by Elon Musk was not the end but a powerful beginning. Jamie's adventure had shifted from naive dreaming to determined pursuit, from fragile hope to resilient action. The climb was steep, but the view was breathtaking. The story of Jamie's climactic journey was more than just a tale of rockets and science, it was a testament to human courage, curiosity, and the relentless drive to reach beyond what seems possible. Jamie knew this was only the start. The road ahead was long and uncertain, but with the lessons learned and the support of those who believed in him, he was ready to face whatever challenges came next. This journey had changed him, not just as an inventor but as a person. Jamie had discovered the true meaning of perseverance, the power of hope amid struggle, and the thrill of chasing a dream that no one else could see but him. And as he looked up at the stars that night, Jamie felt a new kind of certainty, that the sky was not the limit, but just the beginning. The night sky stretched endlessly above Jamie as he lay on the grassy hill behind his house, the cool breeze brushing against his face. The stars twinkled like distant beacons, each one a reminder of how vast and mysterious the universe really was. For a moment, Jamie felt small, a tiny speck in the grand scheme of things, but beneath that smallness was a growing sense of purpose, a spark that refused to be extinguished. This was the emotional climax of his journey, a moment when everything he had endured, every doubt and every triumph, converged into a powerful revelation. Jamie's encounter with Elon Musk, the harsh words, the difficult lessons, the failures and successes, they all led here. It wasn't just about rockets or technology anymore, it was about understanding himself, his fears, and his dreams. It was about realizing that being wrong didn't mean failure, it meant growth. The journey had tested Jamie in ways he hadn't anticipated. Each setback was a blow to his confidence, but it also forced him to dig deeper, to question his assumptions, and to find new solutions. The moments of hope, when a test flight succeeded or when a problem was solved, gave him the strength to keep going. Yet, there was still one challenge he hadn't faced, the fear that maybe his dream was too big, that the world would never accept it. That night on the hill, Jamie wrestled with those fears. He thought about Elon's words, "You have to be willing to be wrong many times before you're right." What if this time he really was wrong? What if the dream was impossible? But then he thought about Sarah and Lily, about their belief in him, about how far he had come. The thought that he might give up felt like betrayal to them and to himself. Jamie realized that his journey was more than a project, it was a test of his character. The truth hit him hard, no matter what happened, he couldn't let fear win. This emotional climax was punctuated by a surprising moment of clarity. Jamie understood that the greatest innovation wasn't just the rocket or the technology, it was the courage to face the unknown, to keep moving forward despite uncertainty. This courage was the true fuel of dreams. Over the following weeks, Jamie poured this newfound clarity into his work. He revisited his designs with fresh eyes, incorporating feedback and lessons learned. The rocket's improvements were noticeable: more stable fins, optimized fuel flow, and an enhanced guidance system. With each iteration, Jamie felt his confidence grow. The small successes piled up, transforming his hope into tangible progress. But with success came new challenges. The project demanded more time and resources, and Jamie's schoolwork began to suffer. His teachers noticed his distraction, and some classmates whispered about his obsession. Jamie struggled to balance the demands of his dream with the expectations of everyday life. Sarah saw the toll it was taking. One evening, she sat down with Jamie and said gently, "I'm proud of you, but you need to take care of yourself too. Dreams don't mean much if you burn out chasing them." Jamie nodded, understanding her concern. It was a lesson in balance he hadn't fully appreciated before. Around the same time, Lily brought a new idea to the table: a community fundraiser to help cover the costs of materials and tests. They organized bake sales, car washes, and reached out to local businesses. The town, once skeptical, began to rally behind them. Jamie felt the warmth of community support, a reminder that his dream wasn't just his own, it belonged to everyone who believed in the power of possibility. This support brought hope, but also pressure. The stakes were higher now, and the fear of disappointing others loomed. Jamie grappled with self-doubt but pushed through, fueled by the belief that failure was just a step toward success. Then came the day of the big test, a critical launch that would determine if all their work had paid off. The entire community gathered in the open field, anticipation buzzing in the air. Jamie's heart raced as he prepared the rocket. Every calculation, every adjustment, every moment of doubt had led to this point. The countdown began. When the engine ignited, the rocket lifted smoothly into the sky, climbing higher and steadier than ever before. Cheers erupted as it soared, a symbol of triumph and hope. For Jamie, this flight was more than a technical success, it was a vindication of every moment of struggle and resilience. Yet, even as the rocket landed safely, Jamie knew the journey wasn't over. The emotional climax had opened his eyes to the ongoing nature of growth and learning. He realized that each success would bring new challenges and that the true test of a dreamer was to keep reaching, no matter how far the stars seemed. That evening, as Jamie and Lily packed up their equipment, Elon Musk appeared unexpectedly, having heard about the launch. He smiled and said, "You've come a long way. Remember, the road to Mars isn't easy, but every step counts." Jamie felt a surge of pride mixed with humility. Elon's presence was a powerful reminder that even the greatest innovators once stood where Jamie stood, on the edge of possibility, facing uncertainty with courage. As Jamie looked up at the night sky once more, he felt a deep connection to the countless dreamers before him and those who would come after. The emotional climax of his story wasn't a final victory but a profound understanding of what it meant to chase a dream with heart and resilience. In that moment, Jamie's journey shifted from a boy trying to prove himself to a young woman learning the true meaning of hope, sacrifice, and love. The story wasn't just about space anymore, it was about life. The lessons Jamie learned, the power of persistence, the importance of support, and the courage to embrace being wrong, would guide him for the rest of his days. The emotional climax was a turning point, not an end. It was the moment when Jamie stepped fully into his role as a dreamer and doer, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead with open eyes and an open heart. Jamie's days after the big launch were a whirlwind of emotions and new opportunities. The successful flight had brought unexpected attention. Local news stations called for interviews, the school principal praised his dedication, and even a few space enthusiasts from around the country reached out online, eager to follow his progress. Jamie was overwhelmed but exhilarated. He was no longer just the kid with a wild idea, he was becoming a young innovator with a story to tell. Yet, amid the excitement, Jamie felt a growing pressure to live up to expectations. The stakes had risen, and with them came the fear that the next step might not be as smooth. Elon Musk's words echoed in his mind, "Every step counts," but Jamie wondered what would happen if the next step was a misstep. In the weeks that followed, Jamie and Lily dove into their most ambitious project yet, designing a prototype for a rocket stage that could land safely back on Earth, making space travel more sustainable and affordable. This idea was inspired by SpaceX's own technology but had to be adapted to their limited resources and experience. The task was daunting. Jamie spent long hours sketching designs, calculating fuel needs, and building miniature models in Lily's garage. They faced setback after setback, parts breaking, tests failing, calculations off by miles. Each failure stung, but each time Jamie reminded himself of the bigger goal. "It's about learning," he said to Lily one night, "not just winning." The emotional toll, however, was beginning to weigh heavily. Jamie struggled to focus in school, losing himself in technical problems and dreams of space. Sarah noticed his exhaustion and sat him down for a serious talk. "Jamie, I know you want to do something amazing, but you can't forget to live your life too. Balance is key." Jamie understood but felt torn. He wanted to honor his promise to himself and to those who believed in him. The conflict between his dream and daily life created tension at home. Sarah worried, Lily tried to support, but Jamie felt increasingly isolated, caught between two worlds. At the same time, Jamie's friendship with Lily deepened beyond their shared passion. They confided in each other about fears and hopes, the loneliness of being dreamers in a world that often seemed indifferent. Their bond was a source of strength, a reminder that they didn't have to face the challenges alone. This chapter of Jamie's story was marked by moments of rising conflict, frustration with failed tests, arguments over design decisions, and the pressure of expectations. Jamie found himself doubting his own abilities, questioning if he had what it took to succeed. One night, after a test ended with the prototype crashing and breaking, Jamie exploded in anger and despair. "Maybe I'm just not cut out for this," he said bitterly. Lily refused to let him give up. "Every failure is a step closer," she insisted. "You're stronger than you think." Slowly, Jamie began to reclaim his confidence, realizing that hope wasn't a passive feeling but an active choice. It was about standing up after every fall and moving forward with determination. This climax-hope-climax pattern played out in Jamie's life repeatedly, each cycle teaching him resilience and grit. In school, Jamie's science teacher took notice and invited him to present his work to a regional science fair. This was a new challenge, a public platform where experts would scrutinize his ideas. Jamie was nervous but also excited. Preparing for the fair pushed him to refine his designs and articulate his vision clearly. The day of the fair was both thrilling and intimidating. Jamie's booth was crowded with curious visitors, some impressed, others skeptical. He answered questions with growing confidence, sharing not just technical details but the story behind his dream. At one point, an aerospace engineer approached, offering constructive criticism that challenged Jamie's assumptions once again. Instead of feeling defeated, Jamie welcomed the feedback, recognizing it as another chance to improve. This experience reinforced a powerful lesson: criticism, like failure, was part of the path to success. Yet, just as things seemed to be improving, a new crisis struck. Jamie's prototype was damaged during transport back from the fair, setting the project back weeks. The setback was devastating. Jamie felt the familiar sting of disappointment and the creeping fear that maybe the dream was slipping away. It was a dark climax, a moment when hope seemed fragile. But this time, Jamie drew on the support around him. Sarah helped with repairs, Lily brainstormed new ideas, and Jamie himself found renewed determination. The experience deepened Jamie's understanding that no journey toward greatness was linear. Success was messy, unpredictable, and required unwavering commitment. As spring turned to summer, Jamie's project began to take shape again. The prototype was rebuilt stronger and more precise. Jamie and Lily planned another test launch, this time aiming for a controlled landing, an ambitious goal that would mark a major breakthrough. The day of the test was met with a mix of excitement and tension. The community gathered once again, eager to witness what Jamie and Lily had achieved. As the rocket soared into the sky, everything seemed to go perfectly. The engine cut off at the right moment, the fins adjusted, and the stage began its descent. But just before landing, a technical glitch caused the rocket to veer off course, crashing hard into the ground. The crowd's silence was heavy, the weight of dashed hopes palpable. Jamie felt a familiar wave of defeat but refused to let it define him. Elon's words came back, clear and steady: innovation demands embracing failure. Jamie looked at Lily and Sarah, their faces reflecting both disappointment and pride. Together, they resolved to learn from the failure and keep pushing forward. This emotional climax was a turning point, a reminder that the path to innovation was paved with setbacks but illuminated by hope and perseverance. Jamie's journey was far from over, and the lessons he learned here would shape the next phase of his adventure. In the quiet moments after the crash, Jamie sat alone beneath the stars once more. The sky was vast and full of possibilities, a silent witness to his dreams and struggles. He realized that the true challenge wasn't just building rockets but building himself, his courage, resilience, and capacity to keep dreaming. With a deep breath, Jamie made a silent promise to continue, to embrace being wrong as part of becoming right, and to carry forward the hope that had brought him this far. This chapter closed not with triumph but with a profound reflection on the meaning of failure and the strength found in hope. Jamie's story was unfolding like a rocket launch itself, full of unpredictable twists, moments of doubt, bursts of energy, and the relentless drive to reach beyond the horizon. Jamie stood at the edge of the field, eyes fixed on the shattered remains of the rocket. The crash had stung harder than he expected, a bitter reminder that the road to innovation was anything but smooth. But beneath the frustration was a spark. A quiet determination to understand what went wrong and to make it right. He wasn't just building rockets, he was building resilience, learning that failure was a step, not a stop. After the crash, Jamie and Lily spent days combing through data from the flight, analyzing every sensor reading, every moment the rocket's trajectory shifted. They discovered a flaw in the guidance system software, a small coding error that caused the stage to veer off course at the crucial moment. It was a frustrating mistake, but also an opportunity. Fixing the software became their new mission. Jamie, despite his youth, threw himself into learning coding languages, debugging, and running simulations. The nights grew longer as he and Lily worked tirelessly, fueled by pizza, determination, and an unshakable belief that they could solve the problem. Sarah watched with a mix of concern and pride, reminding Jamie to take breaks and eat properly, but also encouraging his passion. The balance between dream and duty was delicate, and Jamie was learning to navigate it with care. As the weeks passed, their prototype evolved. The coding error was corrected, hardware improved, and the rocket refined. Jamie reached out to a mentor he had met through the science fair, a software engineer who volunteered time to help the duo with complex programming challenges. This new support broadened Jamie's perspective, showing him that collaboration was as essential as innovation. The team's hard work culminated in a planned test flight designed to demonstrate the rocket's ability to perform a controlled landing. This was a leap forward, a technical milestone that would validate months of effort. The day arrived with clear skies and a buzz of anticipation. Jamie, Lily, Sarah, and a small group of supporters gathered once more at the test site. The countdown began, voices trembling with excitement and nerves. The rocket ignited, climbing steadily, reaching the peak altitude they had targeted. Then, the software took over, guiding the stage as it began its descent. This time, the fins adjusted perfectly, the engine throttled just right, and the rocket hovered, steady as a hummingbird. The landing was gentle and precise. Cheers erupted as the rocket touched down safely. Jamie's heart soared with the rocket. The months of failure, doubt, and hard work were distilled into this triumphant moment. Elon Musk's words echoed in his mind. You have to be willing to be wrong many times before you're right. Jamie had faced those wrongs head-on, and now he had a breakthrough. But even as the celebration swelled, Jamie knew this was not the end. The journey toward space was a marathon, not a sprint. This success was a step, a signpost on a much longer road. The community's support deepened after the landing. Local news featured Jamie and Lily's story, highlighting their perseverance and innovative spirit. Donations and offers of help poured in, transforming the small project into a community effort. Jamie realized that dreams could inspire not just individuals but entire groups to come together for a common purpose. Yet, amid the joy, Jamie felt the pressure of growing expectations. Some began to see him as a prodigy destined for greatness, and the weight of that belief was heavy. Jamie struggled with imposter syndrome, wondering if he was really ready for the future everyone imagined. The next challenge was securing funding for more advanced tests and materials. Jamie and Lily crafted proposals, reached out to local businesses, and even drafted letters to aerospace companies. The process was humbling and complex. Many doors closed, and some offers came with strings attached that made Jamie uncomfortable. This phase tested not just their technical skills but their integrity and vision. Jamie realized that the journey of innovation wasn't just about technology, it was about values, choices, and staying true to one's purpose. At school, Jamie faced new challenges. His peers' reactions ranged from admiration to jealousy. Some teachers encouraged him, others worried he was losing focus on academics. Jamie tried to balance these pressures while maintaining his project's momentum. His relationship with Lily deepened further as they navigated these challenges together. They shared late-night talks about dreams, fears, and the future. Their friendship became a source of emotional strength, reminding Jamie that no matter what happened, he wasn't alone. One night, Jamie received an unexpected email from a representative of a local tech incubator offering mentorship and workspace. It was an opportunity to take their project to the next level with professional guidance. Jamie was thrilled but also anxious. The incubator demanded commitment and collaboration with other startups, environments that could be intense and competitive. He hesitated but ultimately saw it as a necessary step forward. Accepting the offer meant stepping out of his comfort zone and into a world where failure could have bigger consequences. This decision marked the beginning of a new phase in Jamie's journey, a transition from hobbyist inventor to emerging entrepreneur. Jamie and Lily moved their operations into the incubator space, surrounded by adults and startups with their own dreams and struggles. The environment was electric, filled with late-night brainstorming, presentations, and sometimes heated debates. Jamie learned quickly that innovation required not just ideas but communication, negotiation, and resilience under pressure. The mentorship offered by the incubator introduced Jamie to business fundamentals, intellectual property, and networking. These new skills were daunting but necessary. Jamie realized that dreaming alone wasn't enough. He needed to learn how to turn ideas into reality that could survive and thrive in the real world. During this period, Jamie faced his biggest internal conflict yet, balancing his youthful enthusiasm with the growing demands of a professional environment. He struggled to assert himself among older entrepreneurs and sometimes felt lost in the complexity of business jargon and negotiations. However, Lily's steady presence and their shared vision grounded him. Together, they navigated setbacks and small victories, learning to adapt and persevere. As the incubator experience unfolded, Jamie's project began attracting interest from local investors intrigued by the potential of a low-cost reusable rocket stage. Meetings were scheduled, presentations rehearsed, and pitches delivered. Each encounter was a new challenge, testing Jamie's ability to communicate his passion and technical knowledge. He grew more confident but remained humble, understanding that every yes was hard-earned. This phase of Jamie's story was marked by a delicate dance between hope and reality, a continuation of the climax-hope-climax cycle that defined his journey. Successes were followed by new challenges, each demanding deeper resilience. Jamie's relationship with his family evolved as well. Sarah and Jamie's father, who had been skeptical at first, became proud supporters, attending presentations and helping where they could. Their faith in Jamie's dream was a powerful source of encouragement, reminding him that love and family were the foundation beneath every ambition. One late evening, after a particularly intense day of work, Jamie sat on the rooftop of the incubator building, staring at the stars. The vastness above reminded him of the journey ahead. He thought about Elon Musk's initial rejection, the countless failures, and moments of hope that had brought him here. Jamie smiled, knowing that every step, right or wrong, was part of the path forward. The story of the boy who was once told he was wrong was now unfolding into something much bigger, a testament to perseverance, growth, and the unyielding power of a dream. The months following Jamie's entry into the tech incubator were filled with an intense mixture of excitement and exhaustion. Every day was a whirlwind of meetings, coding marathons, prototype tweaks, and presentations. Jamie felt as if he were living in fast forward, his life compressed into a relentless pace that challenged both his mind and spirit. Despite the fatigue, he felt alive in a way he never had before. The incubator environment pushed him beyond the limits of his previous experiences. Surrounded by entrepreneurs, engineers, and investors, Jamie learned how innovation was not just about ideas but about perseverance, adaptability, and collaboration. He discovered the delicate art of pitching, how to capture attention quickly, how to convey complex concepts simply, and how to anticipate questions before they were asked. These skills were foreign to a 12-year-old boy who had once only dreamed of rockets in his backyard, but Jamie embraced the challenge with determination. One day, while preparing for a particularly important pitch to a group of potential investors, Jamie was struck by the pressure of expectations, not just his own but those of the community that had rallied behind him. He remembered the first time Elon Musk had told him he was wrong, the sting of rejection, and the hard lessons that followed. The memory fueled Jamie's resolve. He knew that success wasn't guaranteed, but giving up was not an option. On the day of the pitch, Jamie arrived early, rehearsing his presentation over and over. Lily was by his side, offering last-minute encouragement and technical advice. Sarah had helped prepare refreshments and was there in the audience, a steady source of comfort. When Jamie stepped onto the stage, nerves surged through him, but the moment he began speaking, a calm focus took over. He shared the story of their journey, the failures, the breakthroughs, the dream of making space accessible. His passion was palpable, capturing the audience's attention. The technical details were balanced with a human story, the kind of narrative that moves hearts as well as minds. After the pitch, a flurry of questions followed. Jamie answered honestly, acknowledging uncertainties while expressing confidence in the team's ability to solve problems. The investors appreciated his candor and enthusiasm, impressed that someone so young could grasp complex challenges and lead a project with such vision. Over the next few weeks, the incubator buzzed with anticipation. Meetings with investors, contract negotiations, and planning for the next phase of development dominated Jamie's life. The prospect of securing funding to build a full-scale reusable rocket stage brought hope, but also a new wave of pressure. Jamie realized that the dream was growing bigger and more complicated. Success would require sacrifices and tough decisions. One of the toughest was balancing school with the demands of the project. Jamie's grades slipped, and teachers voiced concerns. Sarah stepped in, working with the school to develop a flexible schedule that allowed Jamie to focus on both academics and his innovation. The solution wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Meanwhile, Lily took on more responsibility, managing day-to-day tasks and helping mentor newer interns at the incubator. Their partnership had matured into a finely tuned collaboration built on trust and shared passion. Outside the incubator, Jamie's life was changing too. Friends he had once played video games with seemed distant, their conversations revolving around things Jamie no longer cared about. He felt isolated but found solace in his close circle, Lily, Sarah, and a few new friends from the incubator who shared his vision. The emotional landscape was complex. Jamie was growing up fast, navigating the thrills and loneliness of chasing a big dream. Then came the unexpected challenge. A rival startup announced a similar reusable rocket concept, backed by significant funding and experienced engineers. The news sent shockwaves through the incubator and Jamie's community. Doubts crept in. Was Jamie's project still relevant? Could they compete? The situation was a harsh reminder that innovation was a race filled with rivals, setbacks, and the constant threat of being overshadowed. Yet, rather than retreat, Jamie chose to face the challenge head-on. He convened a meeting with Lily and their mentors, strategizing ways to differentiate their design and accelerate development. The rivalry pushed Jamie to think bigger and work smarter. It was a harsh but valuable lesson in competition and the realities of the tech world. Over the next months, Jamie and his team made significant advances. They refined their prototype to be lighter, more fuel-efficient, and more reliable. Their testing protocols became rigorous, ensuring every component met the highest standards. Jamie learned to embrace data-driven decision-making, balancing creativity with empirical evidence. The incubator environment, once intimidating, became a place where Jamie thrived. Despite the pressure, he found moments of joy, in small victories, shared laughter with Lily, and the quiet satisfaction of watching an idea take shape. Then, the day came for their most ambitious test flight yet. This launch was not just about proving technology but about showing investors and the community that their dream was alive and ready to soar. The launch site buzzed with energy as Jamie and his team prepared the rocket. Local media, investors, and supporters gathered, their eyes fixed on the sky. The countdown began, hearts pounding. The rocket launched with power and grace, climbing steadily into the blue. The stage separation was flawless, the descent began. For a tense moment, everything went perfectly, then the unexpected happened. A sudden gust of wind pushed the landing stage off course. The rocket veered, landing hard and tipping over. Silence fell over the crowd. Jamie felt the familiar sting of failure, but it was tempered by a new perspective. This was a setback, not the end. The team scrambled to analyze what went wrong. It turned out that the weather conditions had been underestimated, a variable difficult to control but crucial in real-world testing. Rather than despair, Jamie rallied his team. They developed improved weather monitoring and launched simulations to prepare for unpredictable conditions. This moment was a critical emotional climax, reinforcing that setbacks were inevitable but the response mattered most. The resilience Jamie had built over years of trials carried him forward. The community's support remained strong, bolstered by the transparency and honesty Jamie maintained. The story of the boy who was once told he was wrong was now a story of relentless perseverance and growth. In quiet moments after the launch, Jamie reflected on how far he had come, from a curious child asking questions in a backyard to a young innovator standing at the edge of possibility. The journey was far from over, but each failure and success had shaped him into someone ready for the next challenge. The lesson was clear: dreams were not destinations but ongoing journeys filled with twists, turns, and the courage to keep moving forward no matter the outcome. The air was thick with anticipation as Jamie and Lily prepared for their next big test, an event that would not only push their technology but also test their teamwork, resilience, and vision for the future. The last setback had taught them invaluable lessons about weather, timing, and precision, but it had also deepened the pressure. The small but growing community around them watched with hopeful eyes, their belief in Jamie's dream undiminished. This test would mark a turning point. The months leading up to the launch were consumed by meticulous preparation. Jamie and Lily refined every detail, strengthening the landing gear, upgrading sensors to better detect environmental changes, and enhancing the rocket's guidance software to respond dynamically to unpredictable conditions. They conducted countless simulations, running through scenarios that stretched from perfect flights to worst-case crashes. Each failure in simulation was dissected and used to make improvements. Beyond the technical challenges, Jamie worked hard to maintain balance in his life, a task that grew more difficult as the stakes rose. Schoolwork, family time, social connections, each competed for space in his day. Sarah continued to be his anchor, offering support and wisdom, reminding Jamie to take care of himself even as he pursued his dream. Lily became more than a partner in invention, she was a constant source of emotional support and motivation. Their bond had matured into a deep friendship, strengthened by shared struggles and victories. The incubator provided resources and mentorship, but Jamie soon realized that the intangible elements, trust, communication, and perseverance, were equally vital. As the launch day approached, Jamie felt a complex mix of excitement and nervousness. He remembered the harsh words Elon Musk once directed at him, telling him he was wrong, and how that moment had sparked a fire to prove himself. Now, standing on the precipice of a critical milestone, Jamie understood that being wrong was often just a detour on the path to getting it right. The launch site was buzzing with activity when the day arrived. Journalists, investors, and curious locals gathered around, their eyes reflecting the same blend of hope and apprehension Jamie felt. The rocket sat on the launch pad, sleek and poised, a symbol of countless hours of hard work and unyielding determination. As the countdown began, Jamie's mind raced through every detail, every test, every late night spent in the garage. When ignition came, the rocket roared to life, ascending steadily against the bright blue sky. Sensors relayed data in real time, feeding into the control system developed by Jamie and his team. The rocket reached the target altitude smoothly, and the stage separation occurred as planned. Then, the descent began. This time, the rocket's fins adjusted flawlessly, countering winds and shifting conditions with remarkable precision. As it neared the ground, the engine reignited, slowing the descent in a controlled hover. The rocket touched down gently, upright and intact. A wave of cheers erupted from the crowd. Jamie felt a surge of triumph unlike anything before, a moment when months of struggle crystallized into success. Elon Musk's words echoed again, "You have to be willing to be wrong many times before you're right." Jamie's journey had proven the truth of that statement in every sense. The successful landing was more than a technical achievement, it was a testament to hope, perseverance, and the power of belief. But even in victory, Jamie understood the journey was ongoing. The test had opened doors, investors showed renewed interest, partnerships formed, and media attention intensified. Jamie and Lily were invited to present at conferences and speak about their vision for accessible space technology. Each opportunity was a chance to inspire others and grow their network, but also a reminder of the responsibilities that came with success. The incubator expanded their resources, offering access to advanced materials, fabrication tools, and expert advice. Jamie found himself navigating the complexities of scaling a startup, hiring help, managing budgets, and planning for future tests that would push their technology even further. The experience was exhilarating but challenging. Jamie grappled with the weight of expectation, the fear of failure, and the need to keep learning rapidly. His relationship with Lily continued to evolve. They celebrated victories together, supported each other through setbacks, and shared the dreams that kept them moving forward. Their friendship was a constant in the swirling chaos of innovation and growth. Yet, the growing demands began to strain Jamie's personal life. Time with family became scarce, and moments of solitude rare. Sarah worried about his well-being, gently urging him to remember the importance of balance. Jamie wrestled with guilt and the drive to succeed, a tension many young innovators face when passion becomes a consuming force. Despite these challenges, Jamie remained grounded by a profound sense of purpose. He saw his work not just as a personal ambition but as part of a larger mission, to inspire others, to make space more accessible, and to prove that age and circumstance need not limit dreams. This sense of mission gave Jamie strength, especially during moments of doubt. As the months rolled on, Jamie and Lily faced new hurdles. Technical problems emerged with materials failing under stress, supply chain delays threatened their timelines, and occasional doubts crept into their minds. But each challenge was met with renewed effort and creative problem-solving. The story of their journey continued to be one of climax hope climax, a cycle of struggle and breakthrough that kept the narrative alive and compelling. At school, Jamie's story became something of a legend. Younger students looked up to him, inspired by his courage and determination. Teachers spoke of him as an example of where passion and hard work could lead. Yet Jamie remained humble, always quick to credit his team, family, and mentors. One afternoon, while visiting a local elementary school to talk about his project, Jamie met a curious 7-year-old named Max who asked the question that had first started Jamie's journey: what if you could go to space? What would you do first? The simplicity and wonder in Max's eyes reminded Jamie of himself years ago, full of questions, dreams, and the hunger to explore. It was a poignant moment that reconnected Jamie to the innocence and excitement that had fueled his path from the start. That evening, Jamie reflected on how far he had come. From the boy who had been told he was wrong to the young innovator leading a promising startup. He realized that the greatest lessons were not technical but human: resilience, hope, and the courage to keep dreaming despite setbacks. The journey was ongoing, filled with uncertainty and promise, but Jamie felt ready for whatever came next. He knew that every failure, every moment of doubt, was part of the process. The story of the boy who had been told he was wrong had become a story of relentless hope and transformation, inspiring others to believe that with enough passion and perseverance, anything was possible. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? Jamie's life had become a whirlwind of projects, meetings, and planning sessions, but beneath the surface was a growing realization that innovation required more than technology, it required connection. The journey from backyard experiments to a functioning reusable rocket had been fueled by passion and persistence, but Jamie knew that to truly succeed, he needed to build bridges between ideas and people, dreams and reality. The incubator environment was a melting pot of talent and ambition, but Jamie soon understood that collaboration was more than just sharing space. It was about trust, communication, and mutual respect. Jamie worked to foster relationships not only with engineers and investors but also with educators, community leaders, and even competitors. He recognized that the dream of space exploration was bigger than any one person or project. One day, a representative from a nonprofit focused on STEM education approached Jamie with a proposal to create a program that would bring young students into the world of rocket science through hands-on workshops and mentorship. Jamie's heart leapt at the idea. This was his chance to give back, to inspire the next generation the way he had once been inspired by a simple question and a challenging rejection. Working with Lily and Sarah, Jamie helped design a curriculum that was accessible and exciting, combining theory with practical projects. The program aimed to break down barriers, making science and engineering approachable for kids of all backgrounds. The launch event for the program was held at a local community center. Jamie stood in front of a room filled with eager faces, some shy, some wide-eyed with curiosity. He shared his story, starting with the moment Elon Musk told him he was wrong, the failures, the setbacks, and the ultimate breakthroughs. His message was clear: failure was not the end, but a step toward success. The response was overwhelming. Children asked questions, volunteered ideas, and lit up with the thrill of discovery. Jamie realized that his journey had taken on a new meaning. It was no longer just about rockets but about hope, inspiration, and possibility. Meanwhile, the technical side of Jamie's project was evolving rapidly. With new funding secured after the successful test flights, the team expanded, bringing in specialists in aerodynamics, material science, and software development. The rocket designs grew more sophisticated, incorporating cutting-edge technology and innovative engineering solutions. Jamie, though still young, found himself in the role of a project leader, balancing creative input from his team with strategic decisions about timelines and resources. The pressure was immense, but Jamie embraced it with the same determination that had carried him from his first failed launches. The competitive landscape remained fierce. Rival startups continued to innovate and push boundaries, but Jamie's team focused on carving out their unique niche, affordable, reusable rocket stages accessible to educational institutions and small businesses. This vision resonated with investors who saw potential in democratizing space technology. As the project scaled, Jamie encountered new challenges beyond the technical realm. Intellectual property disputes arose, forcing the team to navigate the complex world of patents and trademarks. Legal hurdles and negotiations took time and resources, adding a layer of complexity to their mission. Jamie learned quickly that innovation was as much about navigating bureaucracy as about engineering. In his personal life, Jamie worked hard to maintain connections with family and old friends. He knew that while ambition fueled progress, relationships provided grounding and support. Sarah remained his rock, always reminding him to take moments to breathe and reflect. Lily became not only a collaborator but a trusted confidant, someone who understood the pressures and joys of the journey. Their friendship deepened into a partnership built on shared values and dreams. One evening, after a long day of testing new components, Jamie and Lily sat watching the sunset from the incubator rooftop. They talked about the future, the possibilities, the risks, and the legacy they hoped to build. Jamie felt a deep sense of gratitude for the path he was on, despite its challenges. He knew the road ahead would be tough, but also rich with discovery and growth. Then came an unexpected opportunity, an invitation to meet Elon Musk himself at a technology summit. The news electrified Jamie. After years of rejection and doubt, he would finally have the chance to face the man who had once told him he was wrong. The meeting was arranged in a private room at the conference center, surrounded by screens displaying rockets and satellites. Elon greeted Jamie warmly, acknowledging the young inventor's achievements and resilience. The conversation was candid and inspiring, with Elon sharing insights about innovation, risk, and the importance of embracing failure. Jamie shared his journey, the highs and lows, and the lessons learned. Elon listened intently, then surprised Jamie by saying, "You've grown into a remarkable innovator. Remember, the path to success is never straight. Keep pushing boundaries, and don't let anyone tell you you're wrong again." The encounter left Jamie both humbled and energized. He realized that rejection was not a final verdict but an invitation to grow, adapt, and persist. The meeting with Elon became a defining moment, a symbolic passing of a torch from one generation of dreamers to the next. Following the summit, Jamie returned to the incubator with renewed vigor. The project accelerated, with plans for a full-scale demonstration scheduled within the next year. The team faced new technical challenges, improving fuel efficiency, refining landing accuracy, and integrating AI for autonomous control. Jamie's leadership skills continued to develop as he balanced innovation with practical management. As the team prepared for the demonstration, Jamie reflected on how much he had changed since the early days. The boy who had once been crushed by harsh criticism had become a leader capable of inspiring others and shaping the future of space technology. The journey was far from over, but Jamie's story was no longer just about rockets, it was about resilience, growth, and the power of dreams to transform lives. In quiet moments, Jamie often returned to the question that started it all: what if you could go to space? What would you do first? The answer had evolved, becoming less about the destination and more about the journey. The lessons learned, the people met, and the hope sparked along the way. Jamie understood now that the true journey was not measured in miles or milestones but in courage, heart, and the willingness to keep dreaming, no matter what. The pressure to deliver a successful full-scale demonstration weighed heavily on Jamie's shoulders. Months of preparation had built the momentum, and now the entire project depended on flawless execution. The team worked around the clock, fine-tuning every system, running simulations, and troubleshooting last-minute issues. Jamie found himself oscillating between moments of intense focus and waves of doubt. The stakes were higher than ever, and the fear of failure loomed like a shadow. Despite the tension, the team's camaraderie remained strong. Lily's calm presence balanced Jamie's restless energy, and the collective spirit within the incubator was one of determination and hope. Sarah's support grounded Jamie, reminding him to pause and breathe, to remember why he started this journey in the first place. On the day of the demonstration, the launch site was alive with activity. Engineers checked instruments, media crews set up cameras, and investors gathered, eager to witness the culmination of years of hard work. Jamie's heart pounded as he reviewed the checklist one final time. The rocket sat on the pad, gleaming under the bright sun, ready to take flight. The countdown began, echoing across the field. Jamie felt a surge of adrenaline as the engines ignited, the roar filling the air. The rocket lifted smoothly, climbing higher with each second. The telemetry data streamed in, confirming stable flight parameters. When the stage separation occurred, Jamie held his breath. The sequence executed perfectly, the two components moving apart as designed. Then the descent phase started. This was the moment that had caused so many past failures. Would the rocket respond as expected? Would it land safely? The crowd watched in tense silence as the rocket's descent slowed, its engines firing to control speed. The landing gear extended, and the rocket touched down gently, upright, with barely a tremor. Cheers erupted, applause ringing across the site. Jamie felt a wave of relief and pride unlike anything he had experienced before. This successful demonstration was a milestone, not just technically, but personally. It was the proof that years of hard work, setbacks, and relentless belief had paid off. Investors expressed enthusiasm, promising additional funding to expand the project. Media coverage highlighted Jamie as a young visionary who had overcome doubt and adversity. But beyond the accolades, Jamie felt something deeper, a renewed sense of purpose. The demonstration was proof that his dream was real and achievable, but it was also a stepping stone towards something greater. The team celebrated but remained focused. The successful launch was the beginning of a new phase, where scaling up production, refining designs, and planning commercial applications became the priority. Jamie found himself navigating a complex web of challenges, negotiating contracts, managing larger teams, and balancing innovation with business realities. The journey had evolved from a personal dream to a growing enterprise with real-world impact. At school, Jamie's story inspired peers and teachers alike. Invitations to speak at events and participate in panels came frequently. Jamie used these platforms to emphasize the importance of resilience, curiosity, and collaboration. He spoke about the value of failure as a teacher and the power of persistence in the face of doubt. His message resonated, encouraging others to pursue their passions despite obstacles. Meanwhile, Jamie continued to nurture his own growth. He sought mentors, studied leadership, and honed his communication skills. The path of innovation was not only about technical expertise but about emotional intelligence and adaptability. Jamie embraced these lessons, understanding that being a leader meant more than directing, it meant listening, empathizing, and inspiring. Outside of work, Jamie's relationships deepened. Lily and he celebrated small victories and supported each other through stress. Sarah remained a steady presence, offering guidance and comfort. Jamie learned to value these connections, recognizing that no achievement was complete without the support of others. Yet, the journey was not without challenges. The expanding scope of the project brought new stressors, delays in manufacturing, unexpected technical glitches, and the constant pressure of deadlines. Jamie wrestled with moments of self-doubt and exhaustion, but each challenge reinforced his commitment. He remembered the moment Elon Musk told him he was wrong and how that had sparked his determination. Failure was no longer an enemy but a necessary part of growth. One night, after a particularly grueling day, Jamie sat alone on the incubator rooftop, gazing at the stars. The vastness of space reminded him why he had started this journey, to explore, to push boundaries, and to inspire. He thought about Max, the curious 7-year-old who had reignited his passion for education. Jamie resolved to keep blending innovation with inspiration, ensuring that his work not only advanced technology but also sparked dreams in others. The next big challenge was on the horizon, preparing for a commercial launch that would demonstrate the rocket's viability in the marketplace. The team worked tirelessly, balancing engineering demands with regulatory requirements and marketing strategies. Jamie found himself at the center of a complex ecosystem, managing diverse stakeholders and navigating unfamiliar territory. The weight of responsibility was immense, but Jamie drew strength from his team and the lessons of the past. As the commercial launch date approached, excitement and anxiety mingled. This was more than a test, it was a chance to prove that their vision could succeed on a larger scale. The launch day arrived with perfect weather and a palpable sense of possibility. The rocket soared into the sky, performing flawlessly once again. The landing was precise, the rocket ready for immediate reuse. Investors celebrated, contracts were signed, and Jamie's dream moved closer to reality. In the aftermath, Jamie reflected on the journey, from the boy who had been told he was wrong to the young innovator leading a groundbreaking project. The story was one of resilience, hope, and the courage to keep dreaming. Jamie knew that challenges would continue, but he was ready. The journey was far from over, but the path ahead was illuminated by the lessons of the past and the power of unwavering belief. The momentum from the commercial launch propelled Jamie's project into a new phase of growth and visibility. Suddenly, his small startup was attracting attention not just from investors but from industry leaders, government agencies, and media outlets around the country. Jamie felt exhilarated but also overwhelmed. The demands of running a growing business were complex and constant, pulling him in multiple directions. He found himself spending long hours in meetings, negotiating deals, and managing expectations, while still trying to maintain a connection to the technology and innovation that had sparked his passion. One of the biggest challenges Jamie faced was learning how to delegate effectively. Early on, he had been used to controlling every aspect of the project, from design details to testing schedules. But as the team expanded, it became clear that trusting others with key responsibilities was essential. Jamie worked hard to build a culture of accountability and open communication, encouraging team members to take ownership and contribute their expertise. He discovered that leadership was not about doing everything alone but about empowering others to shine. Despite the fast pace, Jamie made sure to prioritize the company's core values: innovation, education, and accessibility. He wanted their technology to be more than a commercial product, he wanted it to inspire a new generation of explorers and creators. This led to new partnerships with schools, universities, and nonprofits, integrating hands-on workshops and mentorship programs alongside the rocket development. Jamie's own story became a beacon for young students, many of whom reached out to share how his journey had motivated them to pursue science and engineering. On a personal level, Jamie grappled with the toll that the relentless pace took on his mental and physical health. Sleep became a luxury, and stress a constant companion. He struggled to maintain balance, sometimes missing family events or losing touch with friends. Sarah noticed the strain and encouraged Jamie to take moments for self-care and reflection. It was a difficult lesson, but Jamie gradually learned that sustainable success required pacing himself and nurturing his well-being. As the company grew, so did the complexity of its challenges. Regulatory hurdles, supply chain issues, and competition from larger firms tested the team's resilience. Jamie navigated negotiations with government agencies, advocating for regulations that supported innovation while ensuring safety. He learned to adapt strategies in response to market shifts, balancing ambition with pragmatism. Through these challenges, Jamie's leadership matured. He embraced transparency with his team, sharing both successes and setbacks openly. He fostered a culture where questions and concerns were welcomed, and failures were seen as learning opportunities rather than reasons for blame. This environment of trust fueled creativity and commitment. One pivotal moment came when a critical shipment of components was delayed, threatening to postpone a major demonstration. The setback risked losing investor confidence and momentum. Instead of panic, Jamie convened his team to brainstorm solutions. Together, they identified alternative suppliers and reconfigured test schedules to minimize downtime. The collaborative approach not only solved the immediate problem but strengthened the team's cohesion and problem-solving skills. Meanwhile, Jamie's relationship with Lily deepened further, evolving from friendship into a partnership marked by mutual respect, shared vision, and subtle romantic undertones. Their late nights in the lab and long discussions about the future forged a connection that was both inspiring and comforting. Jamie found in Lily a confidant who understood the unique pressures of their work and shared his passion for making a difference. Despite the successes, Jamie never lost sight of the lesson he had learned from Elon Musk, that being told you're wrong is often the first step toward innovation. He encouraged his team to challenge assumptions, experiment boldly, and embrace failure as a path to discovery. This mindset kept their work dynamic and forward-moving. One day, Jamie received an unexpected invitation to speak at a national conference on the future of space exploration. The opportunity was both an honor and a platform to share his vision widely. Jamie prepared diligently, crafting a message that balanced technical insight with personal narrative. He spoke about the power of curiosity, the importance of resilience, and the role of community in advancing innovation. The speech was met with enthusiastic applause and sparked conversations that opened new doors for collaboration. After the conference, Jamie was approached by a group of educators interested in expanding his STEM outreach program to underserved communities. This offer aligned perfectly with Jamie's values and inspired the next phase of his work. He dedicated resources to developing curricula, training educators, and creating accessible materials that could ignite curiosity in classrooms nationwide. Through this work, Jamie found renewed purpose. He saw firsthand the impact that inspiration and opportunity could have on young minds, and it reaffirmed his belief that technology was a tool for empowerment. Meanwhile, the company prepared for a pivotal funding round that would enable large-scale production and market expansion. The process was intense, involving detailed pitches, financial projections, and negotiations with potential investors. Jamie felt the pressure acutely but relied on his team's expertise and his own growth as a leader. The funding round closed successfully, providing the capital needed to accelerate their mission. As the business expanded, Jamie remained committed to maintaining the culture and vision that had fueled the startup's beginnings. He resisted pressures to cut corners or compromise values, even when faced with tempting shortcuts or quick gains. Jamie knew that lasting success depended on integrity, quality, and a genuine connection to the mission. Reflecting on the journey so far, Jamie marveled at how far he had come, from the boy discouraged by harsh criticism to the young entrepreneur leading a growing company with a clear vision and impact. The path had been anything but easy, marked by challenges, setbacks, and moments of doubt. But through it all, Jamie had held on to hope and resilience, transforming obstacles into opportunities. Looking ahead, Jamie recognized that the future held many unknowns but also immense potential. The dream of accessible space technology was becoming a reality, fueled by innovation, collaboration, and an unwavering belief in possibility. Jamie felt ready for whatever challenges lay ahead, confident that the lessons learned and the relationships built would carry him forward. The story that began with a question, "What if you could go to space? What would you do first?" had grown into a journey of exploration, leadership, and inspiration. Jamie knew that the greatest discoveries were not just in rockets or technology but in the courage to dream, the strength to persevere, and the power of sharing those dreams with others. As Jamie's company scaled new heights, he began to realize that innovation was not only about creating better technology but also about understanding the broader impact of his work. With every successful launch and funding round, the responsibility grew heavier. Jamie was no longer just a young inventor chasing a dream, he had become a leader shaping the future of space exploration. This shift brought with it new challenges and ethical questions. One afternoon, during a strategy meeting, a discussion arose about the environmental footprint of rocket launches. Some investors and advisors raised concerns about the sustainability of the technology. Jamie listened carefully, recognizing that the dream of accessible space had to be balanced with stewardship of the planet. He tasked his team with researching greener propulsion methods and ways to reduce emissions. This commitment to sustainability sparked a wave of creativity within the company. Engineers proposed innovative fuel blends and design adjustments aimed at minimizing environmental impact without compromising performance. Jamie saw this as an opportunity to lead not only in technology but also in responsible innovation. Meanwhile, Jamie's outreach programs continued to expand. The STEM workshops reached thousands of students nationwide, many from underserved communities. Jamie made it a point to visit schools personally whenever possible, sharing his story and encouraging kids to dream big. One day, at a community center in a small town, Jamie met a young girl named Maya. She was bright, inquisitive, and passionate about science, much like Jamie had been at her age. Maya's enthusiasm reminded Jamie why his work mattered. She asked him, "Do you think I could build a rocket someday?" Jamie smiled and said, "Absolutely. And I'll be here to help you every step of the way." Moments like this fueled Jamie's resolve to make space exploration accessible to everyone, regardless of background. On the business side, Jamie faced increasing competition as larger aerospace companies entered the reusable rocket market. These giants had deep pockets and extensive resources, threatening to overshadow smaller startups. Jamie knew that to stay relevant, his company had to differentiate itself through agility, innovation, and customer focus. He encouraged his team to think creatively about niche markets, such as educational institutions and small satellite launches, that larger players might overlook. This strategic pivot allowed the company to carve out a sustainable position in the market. However, success did not come without sacrifices. Jamie often felt torn between his demanding work schedule and personal life. He missed family gatherings and struggled to find time for friends. The pressure of leading a growing company sometimes left him feeling isolated. Yet, he found solace in small routines, a morning call with Sarah, a shared coffee break with Lily, or quiet moments stargazing on the incubator rooftop. These moments grounded him, reminding him of the importance of balance and connection. During one intense product development cycle, Jamie encountered a crisis that tested his leadership like never before. A critical component failed during testing, threatening to delay a major client launch and damage the company's reputation. The failure sparked tension within the team, with some blaming each other and morale dipping. Jamie stepped in to address the situation, emphasizing transparency and collective problem-solving. He organized brainstorming sessions, encouraged open communication, and reminded the team that setbacks were part of innovation. Gradually, the team rallied, identifying the root cause and implementing solutions. The crisis, though difficult, strengthened their bonds and deepened their commitment. Around this time, Jamie began to mentor several young engineers and entrepreneurs, paying forward the guidance he had received. He saw in them reflections of his own struggles and aspirations. Mentoring reminded Jamie of the value of community and the ripple effect of encouragement. One of his mentors, a bright woman named Priya, brought fresh perspectives that challenged Jamie to think differently about product design and market strategy. Their collaboration led to new innovations and expanded opportunities for the company. Jamie also faced moments of introspection about his own growth and the legacy he wanted to build. He realized that success was not solely about rockets or profits but about inspiring others to pursue their passions and make a positive impact. This realization influenced his approach to leadership, prompting him to foster an environment where creativity, empathy, and resilience were as valued as technical skill. As the company approached its 5-year anniversary, Jamie reflected on the journey that had brought him there. From the early days of backyard experiments and harsh criticism to international recognition and groundbreaking launches, the path had been marked by perseverance and growth. Jamie knew that challenges would continue, but he felt equipped to face them with humility and determination. At the anniversary celebration, surrounded by his team, family, and supporters, Jamie shared a heartfelt speech. He spoke about the power of dreaming big, the importance of embracing failure, and the need to uplift others along the way. His message resonated deeply with everyone present, inspiring renewed commitment to the shared mission. In the months that followed, Jamie's company launched its most ambitious project yet, a satellite deployment program designed to provide affordable access to space for research institutions worldwide. The initiative aligned with Jamie's vision of democratizing space technology and fostering global collaboration. The project faced technical and logistical challenges, requiring coordination across multiple teams and countries. Jamie's leadership skills were put to the test as he balanced innovation, diplomacy, and business strategy. The successful launch and deployment of the satellites marked a new milestone, expanding the company's impact and reinforcing its reputation as a pioneer in accessible space technology. Throughout this journey, Jamie remained grounded by the lessons learned from his early failures and the encouragement he had received from mentors and peers. The memory of the 7-year-old boy who challenged Elon Musk remained a symbol of curiosity and courage, a reminder that even in moments of doubt, the spark of possibility could ignite transformative change. Jamie's story had come full circle, evolving from a personal quest into a movement that empowered others to dream, explore, and innovate. Looking forward, Jamie envisioned a future where space was not the domain of a few but a frontier accessible to all. He understood that this vision required continued dedication, collaboration, and a commitment to values that transcended technology. Jamie embraced the journey ahead, ready to face new challenges with the same spirit of resilience and hope that had carried him this far. The success of the satellite deployment program brought new attention to Jamie's company from unexpected places. Government agencies, international research groups, and even private companies began to approach Jamie with offers for partnerships and contracts. While this was exciting, it also meant the stakes were higher, and the complexity of negotiations grew. Jamie found himself navigating a delicate balance between growth and staying true to his mission of accessible, ethical innovation. One afternoon, Jamie received an invitation to a closed-door summit focused on the future of space exploration and sustainability. The invitation was prestigious and came with the expectation that he would contribute to shaping policies that could influence the industry for years to come. Jamie understood the significance. This was a chance to represent the voice of smaller innovators and advocate for responsible practices. At the summit, he encountered a mix of seasoned experts, government officials, and corporate leaders. The conversations were intense and often politically charged. Jamie listened carefully, preparing to speak not just as a CEO but as someone who deeply cared about the ethical implications of space technology. When his turn came, Jamie spoke candidly about the need for collaboration, transparency, and environmental responsibility. He emphasized the importance of making space accessible to all, not just the wealthiest or most powerful. His speech was well received, sparking follow-up discussions and new connections. Following the summit, Jamie and his team worked to integrate sustainable practices more deeply into their operations. They invested in research for alternative fuels, recycling materials, and minimizing waste. These efforts aligned with their corporate mission and helped set new industry standards. Jamie also pushed for increased diversity and inclusion within the company, recognizing that innovation thrives when multiple perspectives are embraced. In parallel, Jamie's personal life evolved. The pressures of leadership sometimes tested his relationships, but he and Lily found ways to support each other through honest communication and shared goals. Their bond grew stronger, grounded in mutual respect and a shared passion for their work. Sarah remained a source of wisdom and encouragement, reminding Jamie to celebrate progress and stay connected to his roots. One unexpected challenge emerged when a media exposé questioned the environmental impact of rocket launches across the industry, including Jamie's company. The report sparked public debate and regulatory scrutiny. Jamie took the criticism seriously, using it as motivation to accelerate improvements and enhance transparency. He opened the company's processes to independent audits and communicated openly with the public about their sustainability goals. This approach helped rebuild trust and demonstrated accountability. Around this time, Jamie began mentoring a new wave of young entrepreneurs. Many reminded him of his younger self, curious, determined, sometimes unsure but driven by big dreams. Jamie emphasized resilience and ethical leadership, encouraging them to learn from failure and prioritize impact over profit. One mentor, a young woman named Ava, stood out for her innovative ideas about renewable energy in space applications. Their collaboration inspired Jamie to explore new frontiers in clean technology. The company launched a pilot project focused on integrating solar power and energy-efficient designs into rocket systems. This innovation not only reduced environmental impact but also improved performance and cost-effectiveness. As these initiatives progressed, Jamie became increasingly aware of the broader societal implications of his work. He engaged with educators, policymakers, and community leaders to advocate for STEM education and equitable access to technology. Jamie's outreach extended beyond the classroom into public forums, where he spoke passionately about the role of science and technology in addressing global challenges. Through these efforts, Jamie's company evolved into more than a tech startup. It became a catalyst for social change. The culture within the company reflected this mission, with employees motivated by a shared sense of purpose. Challenges persisted, technical setbacks, market fluctuations, and the constant pressure of innovation, but the team faced them with resilience and a spirit of collaboration. Jamie's leadership style matured, balancing vision with empathy and decisiveness. Reflecting on this period, Jamie recognized the importance of adaptability and humility. The journey was not linear, and success required openness to new ideas and perspectives. The lessons he learned early on about embracing failure and seeking support remained central to his approach. Looking to the future, Jamie envisioned expanding the company's global reach, fostering partnerships that spanned continents and cultures. He dreamed of a world where space exploration was a collective endeavor, driven by cooperation and shared curiosity. The spark that had started with a simple question years ago continued to fuel his passion, reminding him that every challenge was an opportunity to grow and inspire others. Jamie's company was gaining momentum on multiple fronts, but with growth came complexity and unforeseen challenges. One day, Jamie received troubling news: a key component supplier had suddenly gone bankrupt, threatening to halt production and delay an important launch scheduled in just a few weeks. The supplier had been critical to their supply chain, and finding a replacement on short notice seemed nearly impossible. Panic started to ripple through the team, but Jamie knew this was a test of their resilience and ingenuity. He called an emergency meeting and encouraged the engineers to brainstorm alternatives, stressing the importance of staying calm and creative. The team worked around the clock, reaching out to potential new suppliers, redesigning certain components to accommodate different materials, and adjusting production timelines. Jamie coordinated communication with clients to manage expectations transparently. The crisis forced Jamie to confront a harsh reality of entrepreneurship: things would go wrong, often without warning, and success depended on how quickly and effectively they adapted. Meanwhile, Jamie's personal life was also demanding attention. Lily had been offered an incredible opportunity to lead a research team abroad, and though Jamie was proud, the prospect of a long-distance relationship loomed. They spent long nights discussing how to balance their careers and their connection, realizing that sacrifices were inevitable, but so was their commitment to supporting each other's dreams. As the team tackled the supply chain disruption, Jamie found unexpected support from his network of mentors and industry contacts. One mentor introduced him to a local manufacturer capable of producing custom parts at short notice. This partnership not only saved the project but opened doors to more flexible and innovative manufacturing processes. The experience reinforced the power of community and the value of building strong relationships. As production resumed, Jamie reflected on how each setback had become a stepping stone to growth and learning. The company implemented new risk management strategies to anticipate and mitigate future disruptions. This proactive approach improved overall efficiency and confidence. In parallel, Jamie's outreach programs expanded into virtual platforms, enabling them to reach students worldwide. The digital workshops included interactive modules on rocket science, engineering challenges, and career pathways. Jamie enjoyed hosting live Q&A sessions, connecting with young people from diverse backgrounds and inspiring a new generation of innovators. One memorable session featured Maya, the bright girl Jamie had met years before, who shared her own progress in pursuing science. Seeing her growth brought Jamie a deep sense of fulfillment and reminded him of the ripple effect his work could have. As the launch date approached, the company faced another hurdle: unexpected regulatory delays related to new environmental standards. This required additional testing and documentation, pushing the timeline further. Jamie communicated openly with clients and stakeholders, emphasizing their commitment to safety and sustainability. The delay was frustrating but ultimately reinforced the company's reputation for integrity. When the launch finally occurred, it was a triumph, not just technically but symbolically. The successful deployment of their rocket and payload marked a milestone that validated years of hard work, innovation, and perseverance. The team celebrated, but Jamie knew the journey was far from over. This success was a foundation, not a finish line. In the aftermath, Jamie turned attention to the company's culture and employee well-being. He recognized the toll the intense pace had taken on his team and sought ways to promote balance and support. Initiatives included flexible work hours, wellness programs, and open forums for feedback. Jamie believed that nurturing the people behind the technology was essential for sustained success. Around this time, Jamie also began writing a memoir, wanting to share his journey, the struggles, the lessons, and the moments of hope, with a broader audience. The writing process was reflective and sometimes emotional, as he revisited memories of doubt and determination. Through this, Jamie gained a deeper understanding of how far he had come and the values that anchored him. The memoir also became a tool for inspiring others, reinforcing Jamie's commitment to mentorship and education. As the company moved into the next phase, Jamie explored new frontiers in space technology, including deep space communication systems and advanced propulsion research. Collaborations with universities and research institutes brought fresh ideas and expertise. Jamie encouraged experimentation and calculated risk-taking, understanding that breakthroughs required boldness. Despite the expanding scope, Jamie stayed connected to the company's original mission, making space accessible and fostering curiosity. He saw every project as part of a larger story about human potential and the power of dreaming big. Throughout these developments, Jamie remained grounded by his early experiences, especially the moment Elon Musk had told him he was wrong. That moment, once painful, had become a source of strength and motivation. Jamie understood that being challenged and proven wrong was often the gateway to growth. He embraced this mindset in himself and encouraged it in others, cultivating a culture where questioning and learning were celebrated. Reflecting on the journey so far, Jamie felt a profound sense of gratitude. For the mentors who believed in him, the team who persevered, and the community that supported their vision. He knew the road ahead would have new challenges, but he was ready to face them with resilience, creativity, and hope. The story that began with a curious question and a simple challenge had grown into a movement of innovation and inspiration. Jamie's dream of accessible space exploration was no longer just his own, it was a shared vision lighting the way for many others. Jamie stood at the edge of a new horizon, his company poised to enter uncharted territory with the launch of their first interplanetary probe. The project was ambitious, designed to explore Mars's atmosphere and surface in unprecedented detail. Months of planning, engineering, and testing had led to this critical moment. Jamie felt the weight of expectations, not just from investors and clients, but from the global community watching with anticipation. The probe's success could open doors to deeper exploration and scientific discovery, reinforcing the company's reputation as a leader in space technology. However, the road to launch was anything but smooth. As the probe neared final assembly, the engineering team discovered a software glitch that threatened to delay the mission. The issue was complex, involving the probe's navigation system, and initial fixes failed to resolve the problem. Pressure mounted as the launch window narrowed, and the media began speculating about potential setbacks. Jamie knew that rushing a fix could risk failure, but delays could also erode confidence. He convened a crisis task force, bringing together top engineers, software developers, and external consultants. Together, they worked tirelessly, often pulling all-nighters to identify the root cause and implement solutions. Throughout the ordeal, Jamie maintained clear communication with stakeholders, emphasizing the team's commitment to quality and safety. The experience tested everyone's resolve but ultimately strengthened their collaboration and problem-solving skills. After intense effort, the software glitch was resolved, and the probe was cleared for launch. On launch day, Jamie and his team gathered at the control center, nerves and excitement intertwining. The countdown commenced, engines ignited, and the probe soared skyward, leaving a trail of fire and hope. The successful launch was a testament to persistence and teamwork, a milestone that energized the entire company. Following the launch, Jamie focused on the probe's journey and data transmissions, which began arriving with stunning images and measurements. The scientific community hailed the mission as a breakthrough, and Jamie's company gained international recognition. Yet, amid the success, Jamie remained mindful of the mission's broader significance, inspiring humanity to look beyond Earth and embrace exploration as a collective endeavor. Inspired by this milestone, Jamie initiated a global education campaign, partnering with schools and organizations worldwide to engage students in space science. The campaign included interactive exhibits, virtual reality experiences, and collaborative projects that connected classrooms across continents. Jamie saw this as a way to cultivate curiosity and hope for the future. During this period, Jamie also reflected on the ethical responsibilities that came with advancing technology. He became an outspoken advocate for peaceful uses of space and the prevention of militarization or exploitation. He participated in international forums and policy discussions, promoting collaboration and sustainability. This advocacy expanded Jamie's role from entrepreneur to thought leader, influencing how space exploration was perceived and pursued globally. At the company level, Jamie championed innovation labs where employees could experiment with new ideas outside of traditional project constraints. These labs became incubators for cutting-edge technologies, including AI-driven navigation, autonomous drones, and advanced materials. Jamie encouraged a culture where failure was seen as a learning opportunity, fostering creativity and resilience. Amid all these developments, Jamie and Lily continued to navigate their personal journey. Despite busy schedules and physical distance during some periods, they prioritized communication and support. Their relationship deepened, built on shared values and a commitment to mutual growth. Sarah's health had declined, prompting Jamie to spend more time visiting her and reflecting on the family roots that shaped him. These moments brought perspective and renewed motivation. The interplay of personal and professional life underscored the importance of balance, something Jamie aimed to model within his company culture. As Jamie looked ahead, he set his sights on even more ambitious projects. Plans to develop habitats for humans on Mars, leveraging sustainable technologies and international cooperation. He envisioned these habitats not only as scientific outposts but as symbols of hope and unity for humanity. Jamie knew the challenges were immense but believed that with collaboration and innovation, such dreams could become reality. Reflecting on the journey from a curious child challenging a tech mogul to a leader shaping the future of space exploration, Jamie felt a profound sense of fulfillment. The lessons learned, the value of resilience, humility, and vision, had become the foundation of his success. The story was still unfolding, with new chapters yet to be written, but Jamie was ready to face them with the same courage and curiosity that had sparked his journey. The aftermath of the Mars probe's success brought a tidal wave of attention Jamie hadn't fully anticipated. Invitations to international conferences flooded in, government delegations requested private tours of his facilities, and tech giants offered astronomical sums for acquisition. But Jamie wasn't interested in selling. He hadn't built this to cash out. Every bolt, every circuit, every line of code, this wasn't just technology, it was a movement. Still, with attention came scrutiny. A popular science podcast published an episode questioning whether Jamie's company could sustain its ethical commitments as it scaled. Jamie listened to the entire segment in silence, his fingers pressed together under his chin. The host's voice was calm, even admiring, but the concerns were valid. Could transparency survive under the weight of global partnerships and profit pressure? That night, Jamie stayed at the lab long after everyone left, walking the dimly lit halls and staring at the schematics of the next-generation launch vehicle on the wall. He remembered what it felt like to be 7 years old, sitting in his bedroom with a spiral notebook full of rocket sketches and questions no one wanted to answer. He had promised himself back then that he'd build a place where curiosity wasn't just allowed, it was celebrated. The next morning, Jamie called an all-hands meeting. Standing before his team, he addressed the questions head-on. "The world is watching us now," he began, his voice steady but earnest. "And it should be. We've said we're different. That means we don't just succeed differently, we lead differently." He laid out a plan to formalize ethical review committees within the company, invite independent oversight, and publish their environmental and social impact data in real time. It wasn't about appeasement, it was about accountability. The team responded with energy and pride, proud to be part of a mission that cared as much about how it did things as what it achieved. That week, Jamie also launched the Open Sky Initiative, a non-profit wing of the company dedicated to supporting educational programs, diversity in STEM, and open-source space technology for emerging nations. He staffed it with passionate educators and former engineers who had always wanted to teach but never had the opportunity. The first initiative? A program that sent low-cost mini-satellite kits to public high schools across the U.S., complete with curriculum support and live mentorship. Jamie personally visited 3 schools during the first wave, including one in rural Mississippi and another in the Bronx. At each, he gave the same message: you don't have to be rich or from Silicon Valley to reach for the stars. You just need curiosity and courage. Back at headquarters, the engineering division made progress on Jamie's boldest concept yet: modular orbital habitats powered entirely by renewable energy. It sounded like something out of science fiction, but Jamie believed it was possible. Working in collaboration with European and Japanese space agencies, the company began building a prototype using bio-based materials and an AI-optimized life support system. Meanwhile, his leadership style continued to evolve. Jamie took time to walk the floor every day, not as a CEO checking up on people but as a team member staying connected. He asked questions, took notes, and never missed a chance to thank someone for their effort. He instituted a new rule for executive meetings: every session began with someone from outside leadership, an intern, an engineer, a janitor, sharing a 90-second idea or observation. Some of the company's best innovations came from those moments. But growth always came with new challenges. Internal tensions began to rise when a promising propulsion project was cut after months of work due to budget reallocations. The lead engineer, Dev, who had been with the company from the garage days, took the decision hard. Jamie invited him to lunch the next day. "You told me once," Dev said quietly, "that we were building a future no one else could see. But lately, it feels like we're just chasing what everyone else already wants." Jamie listened, guilt gnawing at him. Dev was right to feel disillusioned. Jamie explained the financial pressures, the shifting priorities, the need to focus, but it felt hollow. That night, Jamie rewrote the proposal himself, restructured funding, and personally presented it to the board with a case for why it was critical. The propulsion project was reinstated. Dev didn't say much when he found out, just nodded once and said, "Thanks for remembering what this was about." Outside of work, Jamie's relationship with Lily reached a pivotal moment. After a long weekend hike through Yosemite, watching the stars from their campsite, Jamie asked her to move in with him. She smiled, her eyes catching the flicker of their small fire. "I was just waiting for you to ask." Their partnership deepened, not just romantically, but in every aspect. Lily began advising the Open Sky Initiative, bringing her sharp insight and endless compassion into the education programs Jamie cared so much about. Life was fast, but for the first time in a long time, it also felt full. Jamie's days were a blend of mission briefings, lab sessions, school visits, and late-night rooftop talks with Lily, where they often watched the company's latest test launches streak across the night sky. Then came a call that shifted everything. NASA invited Jamie to lead a joint task force on developing ethical frameworks for human habitation on other planets. It was an extraordinary honor, and a massive responsibility. Jamie accepted, knowing the debates would be fierce. He was prepared to ask uncomfortable questions: what rights would people have off Earth? Who owns Martian soil? What happens if corporations begin claiming territories? For months, he worked with philosophers, engineers, astronauts, and economists to draft guidelines. When the proposal was finally presented, it caused a firestorm of debate across media and governments. Jamie was both praised and vilified. Some called him a visionary, others a naive idealist. But he stood firm. "If we're bold enough to go to Mars," he said during a televised panel, "we should be bold enough to do it right." That stance, more than anything, cemented Jamie's legacy as more than a tech founder. He was becoming a steward of humanity's next chapter. And in quiet moments, he often thought back to being 7, clutching his notebook, watching that grainy live stream of Elon Musk, and asking the question no one thought he'd dare: what if you're wrong? That question still guided him, not to tear others down, but to open minds, explore new ideas, and imagine futures that had yet to be written. The world was changing, and Jamie was in the middle of it, steering a ship through uncharted waters, with more eyes on him than ever before. His work on ethical space frameworks had pushed public discourse into new territory, making headlines and drawing attention from politicians, educators, entrepreneurs, and even faith leaders. Everyone wanted to know what Jamie thought about the future, and more importantly, how it should be shaped. Though honored, Jamie felt the pressure building. There were days when he wished he could step away, just for a moment. To breathe, to exist outside the force field of expectations. But deep down, he knew that influence was a responsibility, not a reward. So he pushed forward, with intention, with empathy, and with a notebook in his back pocket, the same kind he'd carried as a child, now filled with sketches, ideas, and questions that still had no answers. At the same time, his company was gearing up for its most daring mission yet, a collaborative Mars rover deployment in partnership with 3 other countries. It was an unprecedented project, requiring coordination between dozens of agencies, time zones, and political systems. Jamie approached it not as a leader issuing orders, but as a bridge builder, connecting teams, translating needs, and insisting on a shared purpose over individual pride. Progress was slow, and friction was constant. Engineers disagreed on design. Scientists debated priorities. Bureaucrats clashed over ownership and data sharing rights. Jamie spent hours mediating disputes, drawing on every lesson he'd learned about communication, humility, and compromise. Slowly, the project took shape, not perfectly, but powerfully. It became a living example of what cooperation could look like at a global scale. Meanwhile, the world outside of space tech was facing its own storms: climate disasters, economic shifts, political unrest. Jamie was often asked to comment on how space exploration could possibly matter when Earth itself seemed to be unraveling. His answer never changed. Because exploration teaches us how to solve impossible problems. Because when we look up, we remember what we're fighting for down here. That perspective resonated. Public interest in space surged again, this time not as an escape fantasy, but as a mirror, reflecting back the best and worst of who we are and what we value. Schools across the country began integrating Jamie's programs into their core science curriculum. Universities invited him to speak, not just about engineering, but about ethics, about systems, about vision. One college even created a scholarship in his name for students pursuing interdisciplinary studies in technology and philosophy. But not everything was smooth. With visibility came criticism. A viral op-ed accused Jamie of building a cult of optimism that ignored the harsh realities of space colonization. Another article questioned his personal wealth, which had grown substantially as the company expanded globally. Jamie took the criticism seriously. He knew transparency was critical. He increased the company's charitable giving, froze his own salary for 2 years, and published a personal statement that outlined exactly how he intended to use his resources for public good. "I never did this to get rich," he wrote. "I did it because I believed we could build something better. If that belief ever changes, I'll step aside." The statement silenced some critics, and more importantly, reaffirmed the trust of his team and his partners. Internally, morale remained high. His employees weren't just proud of the work, they were proud of the mission. Culture was everything, and Jamie protected it fiercely. He still showed up to team lunches. He still answered emails from interns. He still walked through the manufacturing floor just to say thanks. Lily continued to play a central role in his life. They had built a rhythm, equal parts work and love. Her research now supported the Orbital Habitat project directly, and she'd become known within the company as a quiet force of brilliance. They took breaks when they could, weekends in the mountains, evenings cooking together, long walks where they talked about everything and nothing. In one of those walks, Jamie asked if she ever thought about having kids. Lily looked up at the stars, then at him. "I think about what kind of world we bring them into," she said. "And if we're doing what we're doing right now, I'd feel good about that." Jamie didn't say anything right away, but his heart beat a little faster. Maybe the next great adventure wasn't just on Mars. Maybe it was here, on Earth, in a small house with someone he loved, building a life as carefully and passionately as he had built rockets. The next few months brought more achievements. The Mars rover successfully landed and began transmitting data. International scientists published joint papers. A new wave of young people applied to STEM programs. The world felt a little more connected, a little more inspired. But it also brought a sudden loss. Sarah passed away peacefully in her sleep one crisp October morning. Jamie got the call while reviewing mission data, and for the first time in years, he stopped everything. He flew home, spent days at the house where he'd grown up, and stood at her grave with his hand resting on the stone. "Thank you," he whispered, "for never letting me quit." Her death hit him hard, but it also crystallized something. Time was finite. Legacy wasn't something you left behind. It was something you built in every moment. When he returned to work, Jamie brought a new kind of urgency, not frantic, but focused. He began to shift more leadership duties to his executive team, preparing for a future where he wouldn't need to be at the center of everything. He wanted to create space for others to lead, to shape the mission in new ways. And he wanted space for himself, to write, to teach, to maybe even start a family. That transition didn't happen overnight, but the seeds were planted. By the end of the year, Jamie announced a new CEO would be stepping in to run day-to-day operations. He would remain involved as a founder and advisor, focusing on the educational and global ethics arms of the company. Some were shocked. Others applauded. But everyone knew Jamie wasn't disappearing. He was evolving, just as he always had. At a press conference to announce the transition, a journalist asked, "Do you regret that question you asked Elon Musk, all those years ago?" Jamie smiled. "Not for a second," he said. "That question changed my life. And I hope kids everywhere keep asking them. Especially the ones no one wants to hear." Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough?